changing their mind from the paint on a sign. Is there anyone who really recalls ever breaking record off for something?
Alright, we're just about ready to go here. We're just going to get clearance. Thumbs up. Looks good. We're just on a traffic hold right now. Alright, here we go.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. Ela, menina que vem, que passa, num doce balanço, caminho do mar.
Alrighty folks, we're going to continue our climb up to about 2,000 feet, just crossed over the breakwall. The breakwall marks the entrance to this harbor. You see how far right, so this is called Nauwiliwili Harbor. This is the main harbor for the island of Kauai, so this is where all our goods are shipped in. It's also where they park the cruise ships when they come into town. A little bit further up, the small recreational boat harbor, and then the mouth of the Huluiai stream, probably up, it kind of winds its way up there. But look on the right hand or far side of the stream, I guess from here is a large half-moon shaped muddy fish pond, and that is called the Alokoko fish pond. That was built there by the early Hawaiians. They think about 600 years ago that was built. And so also known as the Menehune fish pond for that reason. A lot of movies filmed on Kauai, and I'll be pointing out some of the shoot locations as we make our way around the island. But right out of the gate here, I like to mention a little movie for you George Clooney fans called The Descendants. They filmed that movie here in 2009. Shot a scene where George drives his movie family up in a Jeep. They get out and look down towards the beach property, and they reminisce about the good times they used to have on the family property. That scene shot right down there on the left side, looking towards this beach off our left side called Kipukai. And it's the property behind the beach that was kind of the backstory of that movie, whether they're going to keep it or sell it. Now that's Mount Ho'opo in front of us, and it's about 2,300 feet high. It's the mountain that gives this line of mountains its name. And so these are called the Ho'opo Mountains. Rolling out now on a west heading and leveling off at 2,000 feet, cruising at about 110 knots westbound. the base of the falls, that helipad no longer there. The pad was built just for the movie, and they removed it after they finished filming. Waterfalls above Manawai-Puna, the ones up here called the Upper Kahili Falls. Always flowing, always beautiful. Lots of rainfall, topography. See how flat, bowl-shaped it is up here. And then also the type of lava rock we have in the Hawaiian Islands, which is basalt lava rock. Basalt lava rock, some of the characteristics are that it's very, very loose, it's crumbly, it's also porous, so it's not as like granite or limestone, the kind of rock you have in Utah. We're going to climb up out of Hanapepe Valley and we'll continue west towards Waimea. This property we're flying over now is private. It's owned by the Robinson family. Bruce and Keith Robinson are the current owners and they are brothers. They obtained this property through an inheritance. It was originally purchased by their great-great-grandmother. Her name was Elizabeth Sinclair. And she bought all of this property after first purchasing the island of Nihihau, which is an island located about 18 miles off the southwest coast of Kauai. The island was bought by the family in 1864, and they paid $10,000 in gold for it. And then later, about 4 years after purchasing Nihihau, they bought all this property. Now this is a 43,000 acre tract of land, and it makes the Robinsons the largest private landowner on Kauai. So get up to the top of the ridge, look off our 12 o'clock, you can see that island now. Nihihau. $10,000 in gold. In today's money, that would be about $300,000. So not much for an entire island. So the land was very, very cheap back then. This land that we're flying over now was purchased for a similar price. I think it was $14,000. But they didn't buy it all at one chunk. They bought it in sections. But it is continuous. It's shaped like a big wedge of pie, and it conforms to the old Hawaiian land management system, the system that existed prior to the Great Mahele, or land reform, which began in about 1840. It took about 15 years to complete. But what that did was it made it, well, it did several things, but one of the big things is it made it possible for foreigners to buy land and own it, fee simple, in perpetuity. We're going to cross over Olokele Canyon now. few day hikes you can go on. Some are a little longer than others. Stop by the Kokei State Park Visitor Center and pick up one of the little trifold trail maps, and they'll have all the distances and all those little hikes in that trifold trail map. Crossing over into Kokei State Park now, hunting and fishing. That reservoir off the right side, that's called the Pu'ulua Reservoir, and it's stocked with rainbow trout. And so are some of the streams up here. This is the only place on the island where you can actually fish for rainbow trout, and they are non-native, so it's stocked. And then as far as the hunting, the 3 game animals on this island are feral pig, feral goat, and then also the black-tailed deer, those 3. There are no predators, no lions, tigers, or bears, no fox, no minks, no coyotes. That's why we have such a vibrant chicken population here, and just in general birds. We have a lot of birds. This is the west side of the island off our left side. Barking Sands Naval Air Station is a little bit behind us, but on the shoreline there. It's not very large, but it is the only military installation of significance here on this island. Coupled with it is the Makaha tracking station. And that's a remote radar site that supports Barking Sands. I was stationed on Oahu, but Wheeler and Tripler were my 2 bases there. Now we are approaching the Napali coast, Napali, which means the cliffs in Hawaiian. So no cars, no roads on this side of the island. The only access to this side of the island is by watercraft. And then a series of trails as well. This is called Nu'ololo Valley, and you have to imagine back in the mid-1800s, this side of the island was a viable community. It was a working moko, which means this was all part of that old Hawaiian feudal system. This would have been the Nepali Moku. The island of Kauai is broken down into 6 major districts called Mokus, and this would have had an estimated population of about 5,000 people. Now imagine living along the side of the island. You would see that sections too, but you can get a good idea of just how extreme this trail is, how rugged it is, and difficult, also dangerous. This section through here is, you'll see a lot of sea caves right along the water line. These are fun to explore by boat. The smaller ones will actually take you inside. But most of these caves forming originally as lava tubes. So the way a lava tube forms is you get a river of lava flowing out towards the ocean, and at some point that surface begins to thicken, it congeals, and then it cools and develops a rocky outer layer. That then has the effect of insulating that molten rock, and so it remains molten for a longer period of time. But at some point that source of lava diminishes and empties out and leaves these tubular voids in the side of the mountain we call lava tubes. Looking back now on the sea caves, one last look here. Actually, we'll do one more. Is everybody doing okay? Okay with the turns? Alright. That's really pretty lighting. I'll flatten the turn, I'll come all the way around. Like this. And then Hanakapiai Beach. That's the one that is open to the general public for day hiking. As of about 3.5 years ago, you could hike up here, you could come up here unrestricted and, you know, get to KA and hike this first 2 miles of the Kalala Trail if you want, hang out at the beach. But it really became unmanageable. About 2018 time frame, they started to put a plan into place. They started to discuss limiting the number of folks who come to KA. And then we got hit by this big storm, this series of supercells that washed the road out at Wainiha Valley, the Kuhio Highway. Washed it out there, so it closed the road, and closed KA Beach. And that road remained closed to the general public for over a year. But during that closure, they took the opportunity to upgrade the facilities there at KA and enact that plan that they were going to put into place. They just moved up the date because the road was closed, right? And they could work up here without the public utilizing the place at the same time. And they built that little parking lot right there at the same time.
How long of a drive is that?
From where? From the airport? A little over an hour. About an hour and a half up to this point here. You can drive to the parking lot, but see, when they reopened the road in the summer of 2020, that's when that new plan went into effect. So you have to get a permit now to park there at that parking lot. There is another way to do it. There's the shuttle that departs from Honolulu, and same thing. You go online and you book your tickets online. That's operated by a nonprofit, so it's not really the state runs the website, but it's actually a Hawaiian nonprofit that runs that system.
The sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul.
nearly washed away the old pier over there that's been there for over 100 years, that pier. Had to bring in a big dredging machine and fix the beach over there. The beach was totally washed away around the pier. But that storm set a world record for rainfall in a 24-hour period, so we had nearly 49 inches falling in 24 hours. Prior to that, it was set, the record had been set by an area out just outside of Houston, Texas. An area known for supercells as well. But we don't get many of those supercells here. That doesn't happen very often. Approaching Mount Namalakama now, and the waterfall streaming out of the cloud, that is called Namalakoma Falls. And it's a little bit odd looking, especially when you can see the whole upper portion of it, because this mountain shaped very much like Mount Ho'upu, and so it's hard to imagine, or it's hard to envision where this water comes from when you're looking at it from this angle. But if you go up there, which I have on occasion, it's actually very, very flat up on top. There's a kind of a flat, broad, sort of tabletop section up there that holds a lot of moisture. That's very, very wet. There's pools of water. It also rains a lot up there as well. That elevation, 4,200 feet, is right about where the dew point typically is for most of the year up there. So it gets continuous rain almost. Occasionally the clouds will drift off. So it's very similar up there to the very top of the island, the summit of Mount Hawaiian, where you have a whole different sort of plant life up there. The plants are all kind of grayed out up there. They're saprophytes, you know. They live off the dead and decaying material of other plant life. Because there's no sun. I would imagine that's probably some of the cleanest water on the island. Hang on. Oh, crossing over the ridge, and we are now descending towards Hanalei Valley. So this is the upper Hanalei, the river, and this is the same river that empties into Hanalei Bay, right there at Blackpot Beach. Now this upper section is not accessible. Even though it's public land, it's not accessible. So there are no trails, there are no roads into this portion of the island, no way to access. See it unless you're on an air tour. That's it. But look how beautiful it is, how lush and green. Lots of rainfall, typically 300 plus inches per year, and also very, very rugged. Look at all the relief. That's just lots of rainfalls, lots of waterfalls. I mean, it's just beautiful. Don't see anybody up here. It's like I said, the only time I've ever seen anybody up here, they were deposited here as part of a archaeology or bird soundings, or one year there was folks camped up here in the back, and we flew over them for a couple of days. They were up here, but they get deposited by a helicopter. They were from the University of Hawaii doing they were entomologists. They were doing a insect study of some kind. Studying bugs. It's not much in the way of wildlife in here as far as ground mammals. There are no native ground mammals in Hawaii, and so everything in Hawaii was brought here. The valley was utilized as an agricultural valley by the early Hawaiians. This was very early on, so these agricultural fields you see off our right side, the segmented taro fields, those are very, very old, probably dating back to the 14th century. but will spike in the peak season. Christmas time always seems like to be the busiest time around here. But last Christmas or last December we had 121,000 folks visit the island of Hawaii. That ridge you see in front of us, that's called the Kalepa. On the other side is Kauai Beach Resort. And then the Wailua Golf Course, follow, there's a gap there. And that's where the Wailua River passes out into the ocean. And also Kapa'a and Wailua, the mountain known as the Sleeping Giant, that's the one with the haystack feature. Approaching Twin Lakes now, just off our front. They're not lakes though, they're reservoirs. And you can see that with the squiggly river-like section there on this end of the dam, on the opposite end of the dam. But this is where they built the movie set that appears in the movie Jungle Cruise. This is where they did all that filming, the village filming. In fact, where the black plastic is over the grass, that's where they blew the building up. The submarine. Alrighty, we have entered the controlled airspace for Lihue. I'm going to point out a few more things, but we are just a couple of minutes from landing. We've got the Tesla solar farm off our right front. They built that. Well, they built the solar panels about 7 years ago, but they sat there for a couple of years waiting for the batteries, and you can see the batteries situated on the far side there. It produces electricity for nighttime, so daytime charging, nighttime distribution. Left side is again the South Fork of the Wailua, and this is mostly state land. The farming that's going on down here is sweet potatoes, and not actually farming for potatoes. That is all part of a research project. That's a state sponsored research project into developing a bug-resistant strain of sweet potato.